Hey everybody, Jack Acid here with episode 10 of the F1 2012 I Am No Expert Career Mode series, and we are taking a look at our weekend here at Hockenheim in Germany. A return to the F1 calendar dating back to 2010, last year replaced by the Nürburgring circuit, of course, as the German GP, and this year alternating back to Hockenheim as we take a quick look at our setup here in Q1. It's raining pretty hard right now, but we've got a dry race day, so going to go ahead and configure it for a dry race and hope that any problems that we have here will be made up on race day. But I personally prefer Hockenheim over Nürburgring, at least in terms of the GP circuit. Of course, nothing competes with the Nordschleife. But in terms of an F1 track, I like Hockenheim a lot. The only problem is, of course, I haven't spent a whole lot of time practicing and relearning it. It's been 2 years. So here in lap 2, you can see coming down here into turn 4 at the hairpin and the conditions, losing my grip altogether. That's going to do it for my time on this lap. Going to go ahead and go back in the garage and wait for some of the times to shake out, and hopefully the weather will improve. Going to go ahead and turn my fuel mix down. Now skipping ahead just a little bit before we're able to get in, and you can see that Mark Webber ahead of me having all kinds of issues with the rain, just to see how the AI behaves under these conditions. Really not doing a whole lot better. So I thought that was worth pointing out. Now coming into pit here, and you can see right now my time's falling off badly, and that's expected. Actually finding that the AI of the pace of the AI rather is extremely quick here, and I don't know if that's because of the weather or not, but basically writing it out, you can see that I barely scraped through at 17th position, so pretty fortunate to get out of that, and feeling like it's probably going to have to take something special to get even near the top of Q2, but we'll have to wait and see how things go. You can see that my team objective is to finish 12th. And you can see that the weather has not really improved, and you can see competing here with Senna, and this is not what you really want to be dealing with on a qualifying lap. Now getting swarmed by another car, now trying to hold things together. You can see I've got terrible visibility, and now of course being swarmed by the AI, and lose my braking point here at turn 8 and into the gravel, and that's going to ruin my lap for sure. And as you can see on the right hand side, being prompted to come in to get more fuel, but just here at the last couple of sets of corners, losing control here and wanting to pit for more fuel, have to get around to get back on track, lose control, and there goes my front wing. And basically this qualifying session could not be going any worse. Here in lap 5 now, coming around, and you can see losing control of the car again and trying to get our composure here. We've got just under 2.5 minutes left in this session. And it's going to be a real uphill climb. The weather not doing me any favors, and the AI's pace is just way too much to overcome. You can see that basically not able to do any better than 17th spot, and a whopping 6.7 seconds behind the pace of the leader here. So at this point I have to hope that that's related to the fact that I had a dry setup in wet conditions. Might have a whole lot to do with it. You can see skipping ahead here to race day, we do have gray skies, but forecast is that it'll be a dry race, and hopefully that'll hold up. You can see that team objective is to finish 15th. Starting grid here, Lewis Hamilton on pole position, and Sergio Perez in P4 and Schumacher in 5th. And taking a look at the middle of the grid here, you can see that Ricciardo finished just behind me in P18. So that's a notch for me on the teammate challenge belt. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to overtake him as the #1 driver. So as I mentioned before, we got a dry race scheduled, and gonna go ahead and start on the options. It seems to be working pretty well for this game. And in terms of a race fuel strategy, gonna go ahead and leave it on normal. I did notice in the last race that I had quite a few extra laps of fuel, even at the beginning of the race, even using a normal fuel mode. And so I'm wondering if that's part of the patch or a recent patch. I think I've seen 2 patches on this game so far on the 360. So I'm wondering if it's something that was part of that. But not that I'm going to complain. And if in fact that is part of the patch, it tempts me to try the aggressive strategy sometime. Never have actually done that. Might be something that I might be able to use to my advantage. So here we are to start, looking at the back of Paul di Resta and the Force India, lined up next to Bruno Senna and the Williams, and here we go. 17 laps to go in this race, pretty long, and here comes my teammate Ricciardo on the inside, and a lot of slowdown here at turn 1, contact with Senna, and now almost coming into contact with di Resta and the Force India. Somehow able to avoid wing damage and worming our way up into P12. Now let's see if we can take advantage of the AI down here. and trying to avoid the back of Grosjean in the Lotus. But he slows down, and now looking at the back of Kimi as we come to the start of the Parabolica here, this extremely long straightaway, my favorite part of the track actually, especially in the wet. And as you can see, not able to get around Kimi here, but let's see if we can exploit down at the braking point. This corner is absolutely miserable and almost coming into the back of Button in the McLaren, but avoid contact, and now trying to compete with him coming out of the turn. But as you can see, he's got more pace than I. And now speeding here through turn 5 and down into turn 6, which can be a little tricky. And Button not going to be accommodating in terms of giving us room. Now getting pressure by Massa back in P8. And swinging around here at turn 7. And don't forget in qualifying having problems here at turn 8. And this time not having any trouble, but you can see still going pretty slow. But worse yet, losing time on Jenson Button up in P6. Let's see what happens. Able to stay ahead of the Ferrari through here. And for whatever reason, these final sets of corners, turns 12 and 13, very difficult for me. Able to manage it reasonably well there, but that's usually only once in a while. We'll have to wait and see how things go over the course of, like I said, 17 laps here at the start of lap 2. And currently running just about 1.7 seconds behind Button. But here comes Massa, overtaking easy on the outside, taking advantage of my poor exit speed, coming out of turn 1, not able to get on the inside of him there at turn 2. And now coming out to the start of the straight, you can see trimming off almost 8 seconds from the first lap. And look at this, very good pace with Felipe Massa and the Ferrari. Plenty of leg room here on the Parabolica, able to overtake easily on the inside. And now coming down into the braking point. And this time we are able to overtake Button, now tapping in the back of Schumacher. And now Perez wobbly coming out of the exit. And we're up into P5. No idea what happened there with the artificial intelligence, but a lot of slowdown. Now we have Schumacher in our sights coming into turn 6, and way too much understeer and going to go off track here. And that's going to give Sergio Perez P5 right back. So just like that, position gained is a position lost. And Felipe Massa now trying to exact a little bit of revenge for getting overtaken back on the long straight. And I'm not that eager to give it to him. Still have a very slight hope of getting P5 back from Sergio Perez up ahead. But you can see that the AI's pace pretty quick through here. And now back into the very tricky corners of 12 and 13, and taking advantage of the fact that I have a visual from the car up ahead to sort of figure out where my entry point should be. So taking a look at the times at the end of 2 laps, and you can see 1.6 behind Sergio Perez, and able to trim off some significant time. Now skipping ahead here to lap 3, and you can see having problems at turn 6 yet again. And Felipe Massa keen to get around, but he's not able to take advantage of my mistake there. But now the pressure's on as we speed through the very tricky and narrow entry point here of turn 8. And you can see starting to go a little bit wide, drop 2 wheels into the gravel, but Felipe Massa, very narrow part of the track, not able to get around, now trying to cut on the inside and trying to stay ahead of him here. And you can see the arrow indicator that he's breathing down our neck. And coming around to the end of the lap, let's see if we can avoid going wide, able to do so there. So despite the fact that I mentioned I've had problems there before, after 3 laps, really having no real problems, but I have to suspect that it's all in due time. And turn 1, I haven't brought up that yet, but that's a very tricky braking point and turn. It's called the Nord curve, and it's a very deceiving corner, and it's extremely easy to go wide left there. You sort of think that it's like Silverstone, where you can almost time it flat out, but it's not quite that easy. I have to brake every time. I think there's a way to hit it without braking, but I haven't figured it out. So now skipping ahead here to lap 5, and you can see the Jenson Button in the McLaren. A very unwelcome sight here as we enter the DRS zone, and here he comes. Obviously plenty of room for him to get around, able to overtake easily on the outside. Going to go ahead and turn up my fuel mix. And going to have to make a move down here at the braking point. He's got outside positioning. Let's see if we can take him on the inside. It's very narrow to get around here. And now wheel to wheel with Button coming out of the exit. And you can see that the McLaren barely falling back now, back up into P7 for him, and able to stay ahead of him. So a very spirited little duel there with Jenson Button. But it's not over yet. Skipping ahead here to lap 7, coming back to the same part of the circuit, and it looks like Jenson Button's going to have another go. And I have a whopping extra 4 laps of fuel right now. I'm going to go ahead and change my fuel mix up to rich, and there goes Button on the inside. And here comes Felipe Massa making a push. Excuse me, Grosjean's behind Massa. So Button and Massa able to stay on the inside yet again, and this time a little more clean than the last time. And able to get back up into P6 and retain that, thankfully. turning back my fuel mix. You might be wondering why that is. Well, frankly, I want to use all that fuel when I get on the prime tires. Not sure how things are going to shake out after our pit stops, but going to have to go in now and get some new tires and start to get things wrong here over the lawn and miss the pit lane. And there goes Massa on the outside. Him and I make contact. And now here at the start of lap 8, falling behind Massa, now pushing on the outside and able to get around him at turn 1. Unbelievable. So trying to make my cut to go in for the pit lane and hit the grass and skid it across onto the tarmac. Meanwhile, Felipe Massa was hoping up to make a position, going around an extra lap, and him and I came into contact coming out of turn 1. That was very bizarre. And now just hoping that my tires hold up, since I am now out on an extra lap. And here comes Sergio Perez on the inside. Is he going to have the pace? He is for a moment, but able to outbrake him. And staying on the inside there at that very, very sharp turn 4. And able to keep P5 for now. And that's basically only by virtue of the fact that someone has gone into pit. So let's try this again here at the end of lap 8. Getting ready to be the start of lap 9. It's a very hard cut to get into the pit lane. And this time finally able to get things right. And pretty busy pit lane. A lot of teams expecting their cars to come in, as I'm sure it was on the lap prior, at which time I was supposed to pit, but of course made the mistake. So getting out of here in under 4.3 seconds. So for me, benchmarking to the rest of the season, that's a great time. And able to get out in front of Massa and resume here in P6. So not too bad here at the start of lap 9. And hopefully we'll see if we can make up some ground after we get these tires warmed up. You can see now trying to fend off the Ferrari and losing, of course, a number of seconds because of the pit stop. And going to go ahead and use some of that extra fuel now, changing our fuel mix to rich. And here comes Massa on the outside. Let's see if we can outbrake him down at turn 4. Able to get ahead of him there. And clipping the curb. Want to make sure we don't leave any room on the inside there for the AI to swing around. Pretty good exit to stay ahead of Massa. And retained P6, so feeling pretty good, hoping that we don't see any rain. You can see that the clouds have really rolled in. Very, very dark day. Now skipping ahead here to lap 10 and desperately trying to stay ahead of Felipe Massa and start to drift, and there's contact with the Ferrari. Carbon fiber flying everywhere from Massa's front wing, but you can see he's able to maintain P7, at least for the moment. And that was very dicey coming into turn 8, losing focus. And now having problems here at turn 12 and going wide, heading into turn 13, and Felipe Massa not able to get on the inside. And somehow here at the start of lap 11, we are able to maintain P6 after a very, very dicey final sector there. Now drifting coming out of turn 1 and doing everything I can to collect my nerves. And here comes Felipe Massa, who's thinking about having a go on the inside, but he's going to run out of room and has to yield. But he will undoubtedly try and chase us down the Parabolica. But as we come out onto this long straight, look, it looks like something happened to Felipe Massa back there, and he wasn't able to get any kind of a springboard going down the Parabolica after all. So able to maintain P6, and now skipping ahead to the end of lap 11. And you can see now getting swarmed by Felipe Massa and others, and doing everything that we can to try and keep this position. We, of course, want to stay in the points, but as you can see with the train of cars behind me, one false move probably going to cost me a lot more than just 6th place. Probably going to get out of the points. Now closing in on the end of lap 13, and problems with the curb coming out of Sachs there, and able to regain our composure coming around here. And you can see still running the higher fuel mix, of course, on the prime tires. Still got 3 laps of fuel to go, and I will monitor that just to make sure I don't run out towards the bitter end. Looking at times at the start of lap 14, you can see that Weber under 1/3 of a second behind now as we try and straighten out and start to get things wrong there. You can see all the lawn and debris on my left wheel as we come down into turn 2, and all that weight shifting to that left front wheel. And of course, with the debris on the wheel, that makes for a very difficult time using grip on that tread, at least until you get it worn off. So now skipping ahead further into lap 14, you can see that Mark Webber still all over us. We've still got our 3 laps to go, coming down here through turn 8. And now heading down into turn 9, also known as Sachs, and trying to maintain inside positioning so that Weber doesn't have any opportunity to get around. And coming through these very fast and difficult sets of corners for me anyway. Turns 12 and 13, had an easier time with them early on, but then had problems later. But fortunately in this instance, able to help our own cause and stay ahead of Weber here at the start of lap 15. And you can see I've gained no ground whatsoever. Still just under 1/3 of a second behind. And the question from here on out will be what kind of pace Weber has coming down the Parabolica. And started to get things wrong here on the left-hand side there, starting to lose grip, rolling up over the curb, and that really cost me on my exit. But the window too small for Weber to have any kind of an opportunity, but not so here at the DRS zone, where he should have plenty of chances to overtake, at least if he's got time, and it looks like he's going to be able to make a move here. Let's see if he goes along the inside, now drifting to my left to try and get my angle right, coming around turn 4, and Weber's not going to have a chance. Able to manage our speed and entry point into turn 4, thankfully, and able to keep the Red Bull in our rearview mirrors for now. Now skipping further ahead into lap 15 here at turn 8, and Weber and I trying to share track coming out of that turn, and Weber spins out. Now it looks like as we come around turn 9, P7 has been overtaken by Kimi Räikkönen in the Lotus, and basically Weber and I were trying to share real estate coming out of turn 8, and right as the track gets narrow, came into contact, and it will be chalked up as a race incident. No warning from the stewards and no penalty to be enforced. And here comes Räikkönen here at the start of lap 16, and the Lotus very keen to get around. You can see I actually have to get very aggressive on turn 1, and that forces Räikkönen to think better of things and back off just a bit, try and get a little bit of a gap here. But Iceman coming on very strong, and let's see what kind of pace he has coming down along the straight and hitting the DRS zone here. And it looks like he's going to have a chance to make a go. Let's see if he wants to try and make a move on the inside or out. I'm going to give him a little bit of room on the outside. I am going to be drifting so I can get my entry right, and he does have to fall back. But given how close to the end of the race this is, there's no question that Räikkönen will be pushing extremely hard on the final lap in order to get P6 from me. So now skipping ahead to the end of lap 16, and you can see coming around turns 12 and 13, able to maintain our line, but you can see that Räikkönen still having none of it, and just like the start of lap 16, right on top of us as we start the lap, and again being very aggressive there at turn 1. And going to go ahead and change my fuel mix, have no need to worry about our fuel load now. Got to burn everything off to stay ahead of the Lotus. Let's see what happens. This will probably be Kimi's last chance to overtake, unless of course I do have problems on any of the final corners of the circuit, which of course is entirely possible. So let's find out if we have one more sprint left in us as Kimi uses his DRS, and let's see if he's going to have a go on the inside. Looks like he's going to run out of tarmac. And coming into the hard braking zone here at turn 4 and off into the marbles. And Kimi not able to make me pay for my mistake. That was a very close call, but as you can see, skipping ahead to the final corner here, able to maintain P6 in front of the Lotus and finish here. Lewis Hamilton winning the race, but a very good result, especially coming up all the way from 17th spot on the starting grid. Was basically able to make up a lot of ground in the opening lap and hold my own from there. And you can see our teammate finishing in 19th, so a miserable finish for him. And there we are getting our 8 points, and taking a quick look at the race results. Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, and Vettel are on the podium there, and looks like we had no DNFs. And unfortunately for Mark Webber, that little spin and tangle that we had, or I should say a spin for him, that cost him some points. He finishes there in P11, followed behind, or right in front of rather, Pastor Maldonado in the Williams. So it's nice to have Hockenheim back on the calendar. Like I said, I do prefer it over the Nürburgring GP track personally. And from here, the season continues on at Budapest. We are heading into the early part of the second half of the season, and typically have pretty good success at Budapest, although it's not one of my favorite tracks. I do like parts of it for sure. And of course looking forward to Spa in Belgium following that. So want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If so, feel free to check out my channel. Have a number of F1 2012 videos, including a season challenge mode series, and also posting some Forza Horizon and Forza 4 videos, most of which have commentary as well. So thanks again for taking the time, and I hope to see you at the next one.